Alan says, how many changes can you make to a GBP in a week before Google or bans or flags your accounts? It depends on what you're changing. Minor changes, things that aren't what are considered major changes, like changing the primary category, changing the business name. Those are like big changes. Changing the address, that's a huge change. But things like changing services, adding or removing additional categories typically doesn't cause any problems. And as far as is there a threshold, I don't know. I honestly don't know if there's some number of tasks that can occur that once you pass that, it trips. It's a trigger. It's a it triggers a suspension or re-verification. I've not heard of that. I'm always nervous about making changes in a GBP2 guys. Like even real client accounts, I always get nervous about making a bunch of changes to them. But the way I look at it is just do it. If it's an account that can be re-verified or reinstated, just do what you got to do. And just make it clear to the client that there are changes that have to be made and that there is a chance that it's going to trigger re-verification or suspension. But as long as it is a real valid GBP with a real valid physical location, then you should be able to get it reinstated. Like, and so I disclaim that, be very clear with your clients right up front. Like, look, we got to make some changes to your GBP. Google is very finicky right now. If it's likely or it's possible that something could happen that's going to trigger re-verification or suspension. If that's the case, your GBP is not going to be published until we get it re-verified. And there is a bit of a process for that. Are you comfortable with us making those changes? There's only two choices. They can either say no and stay with a non-performing GBP anyway, which isn't producing for them, most likely, which is why they needed you or somebody to do SEO for them anyway, right? Or they can say agree to it and just understand that there is a level of risk. But it can be resolved provided it's a real valid business location. So in my opinion, it's worth the risk, because if we are able to make the changes and no suspension, then great, we're golden. But if we make the changes and it triggers re-verification or suspension, then we have to go through the inconvenient process of trying to get it restated or reinstated or re-verified. But once we do, then it's going to come back stronger. It's less likely to get suspended again because it went through that rigorous verification process. And now it's going to start performing better, or can, because of the changes that were made that were required in order for it to start performing anyway. So it's really like, six in one, half dozen in the other. Do you want to stay with a non-performing GBP, or do you want to take the chance? And if we, even if it does get suspended, we'll get it re-verified or whatever. And you're going to come back stronger than you were before. So it's pretty much a binary choice. It's either yes or no. So as far as the number of things that you can change, I don't know if there is a threshold for that. I think it's more or less what you're changing, not the number of things that you change. And again, I could be wrong about that, but I don't know. That threshold may vary if there is a trigger point. It may vary depending on other variables. So, which it likely is. For example, just to be clear, like there are certain GBP categories, Google business categories, that are very trigger happy, right? Very sensitive, like locksmiths, overhead garage doors, or overhead doors. Like those types of, they get suspended like that, right? Because they're historically been spammed to death. That's why. But in other industries, you can you can almost get away with murder and they don't get suspended. So there's a whole bunch of variables that determine like how sensitive Google is to those types of changes. And I certainly don't know what those variables are. Okay.